But Boaz, when you look at the leadership between, of course, Sisi and Netanyahu, yes, it is maybe unprecedented in that terms, but we're also talking about public opinion around the Arab world. We're hearing reports this morning of demonstrators across from the Israeli consulate in Turkey, and now we're just reading reports that police have to disperse the demonstrators with tear gas, meaning the public opinion in these in countries such as Turkey, such as Egypt, are maybe disconnected from the leadership themselves.
No, in Turkey maybe no, maybe because we know Erdogan, but in Egypt probably, and I think that Sisi has to take in mind, or Israel has to take in mind, that Sisi has to take in mind the Egyptian street. I mean, we have seen not decades ago, but a few years ago, the capacity, the ability of an Egyptian street to move to take away a president. But again, I mean, do we have to be surprised of an Arab street? I mean, when we see what's happening in the European street. I mean, we all recall the images in Rue de la Roquette in Paris. So I think that, of course, you have to take this in mind. Look, Israel has received the credit, but it's a very limited credit. It's a credit for a certain amount of time. Secundo, we say, look at the press. I mean, they're interested now with the plane. Okay, the plane will deal with the Malaysian plane 1 day, 2 days, maybe 3 or 4 days. But afterwards, I mean, they will go to Gaza. And don't forget that the second biggest story after the plane is, of course, Gaza. Another thing, I mean, it's enough that you have one rocket killing, I mean, more than 5-7 kids are in a school. This will be headlines. Don't forget that yesterday, UNRWA maybe revealed how the Palestinians are hiding, or Hamas is hiding rockets in a school or in an hospital. But this you'll never see as an headline. Israel has to take account of all that, especially that the world has changed. I mean, today you can have the, how can I say, you can have maybe the green light from a leader, but a leader also reads the paper. A leader also needs his public opinion is important. And don't forget again, among the Western countries, among our friends, demography has changed a lot. All this Israel has to take account. So I mean, you see, I mean, wars nowadays, or when you go to a conflict, I don't know if you can call it a war because it's also a new kind of war. You have to take so many criteria in account that really, I mean, I don't envy Netanyahu at all today. Is
the Security Cabinet taking this into account, public opinion? I mean, they're going to be hearing of these reports as well, the Turkish street, and maybe soon, as Boaz mentioned, this is only a short window of opportunity, quote unquote, before the Egyptian street as well.
I think the cabinet is comprised of politicians. So the first body of public opinion that they're paying attention to is the Israeli public opinion. Having said that, some of them have this perspective of the importance of international legitimacy, the understanding that in the Middle East today, leaders, exactly as was mentioned, it's not just a question of taking account of public opinions. They understand, even though they are not in most places in any way democratic, their reliance on legitimacy from the street.
But even the Israeli delegation that we saw to Cairo yesterday, these are people with extensive experience with the Egyptian leadership and with the Egyptian Shiva. People like Amos Gilad, they know the importance or the significance of close ties with Egypt.
No, let's remember, Amos Gilad and others have had great relationship with the Mubarak establishment. And let's remember that a lot has happened since in Egypt, and there's nothing to say that where we are now is a stable situation. I wouldn't bank on that whatsoever. So, you know, they had the period of Morsi, and then now we have, so we're finding at the moment that we have somebody at the head of that state, to the extent that it still is the state that it was, which again is questionable, that we can deal with, and obviously you need to take advantage of that. But to rely on that being sustainable over a long period of time is a bit of a stretch.
We're going to go get an update from our I-24 News diplomatic correspondent, Tal Shalev. Tal, you are at the Defense Ministry headquarters in Tel Aviv, just minutes before the Security Cabinet and the Government Cabinet is due to meet once again.
Well, yes, Yael, in a bit more than an hour, the Israeli Prime Minister is scheduled to give his first statement on camera since last night when he announced the expansion of the military operation to a ground offensive. And you've been talking a lot about the relationship between Israel and Egypt, and Israeli officials we've been speaking to in recent days point exactly that out, how out of this situation maybe the only positive thing that has emerged is the growing of a new alliance, a new strategic alliance with the Sisi administration. And as you said, it is also not very stable, but in any case, Israel does have a big interest in Egypt here gaining points. And Israel does understand also that some of the negotiations on the ceasefire, even though it was apparently indirect negotiations between Israel and Hamas. It's actually a part of a much bigger question, the question of the leader and supremacy of the Arab world. And here we have one of the problems that actually prevented reaching ceasefire in the previous rounds of negotiations that we saw in recent days, because Israel was keen on Egypt being the mediator, not willing to hear about any other mediator, and Hamas, from its part, is keen on Qatar and Turkey being the mediators. The U.S. was also trying to influence Israel to accept Qatar as a mediator, but as the diplomatic developments continue, and President Abbas, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, will continue today his diplomatic meetings with Hamas officials and with Turkish officials, then maybe something new will emerge. But the Israeli cabinet and the Israeli government, their spokespersons have been stressing all along the past few days that Israel was left no choice, that Israel did choose to immediately accept the diplomatic initiatives and had no choice because Hamas rejected them.